everybody. You're listening to Creep It Real. I'm doing a lot of fast head movements. My name's Ashley.
I'm Bianca.
And we're your family now, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for your support, and thank you for the kind words that you guys have sent us about the Eileen Wuornos series.
Yeah, thank goodness it's over.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think I'd ever say I'm over it, but thank goodness it's over.
There's only so much you can take of that old pain in the ass.
She's such a pain.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you to Kelly for suggesting this particular ongoing case. We're going to cover what we know up until now, but of course, the case is ongoing, so we will do the best that we can to keep you updated with what we find as well.
It's possible there will be a part 2 in 5 months.
In 6 months or something, yeah. And now for the story of Lori Vallow, her new husband Chad Daybell, her missing children, and an ever-growing trail of death that they have left behind them.
Yes. To be honest with you, this was only going to be a Patreon episode initially, and then the minute we started looking into it, there was so much information, which is so rare for a case that's not been fully developed yet.
Right.
So there's just so much information. I couldn't even, after we were like, let's do a full-on episode, I didn't realize until I started to really dive into it how much information there is. It's the craziest thing I have heard in a long time.
Yeah, because when I started even looking into it for Patreon, I was like, oh no, girl, we can't.
There's too much.
There's too much.
Yeah, it's insane. And man, these are some unlikable folks. So get ready, everybody. So Lori Vallow was born in San Bernardino. Is it Bernardino?
It's San Bernardino.
But
yeah.
Why is it spelled that way?
Well, it is spelled the way it sounds.
Either Bernardino?
San Bernardino.
Bernardino is how it's spelled.
Yeah, but you say it San Bernardino if you're from California.
Okay. She was born in San Bernardino, California in 1973, graduated from high school in 1991, and married her first high school boyfriend in 1992. They shortly divorced, and in 1995, she married her second husband, William LaGoya, in Travis County, Texas. Shout out Travis County. Maybe they were in Austin.
Shout out San Bernardino. Listen up. You can't.
The following year, they had their son Colby, and just a few weeks after their 1-year anniversary, the two divorced. In May of 1998, Stacy Cox Cope, the sister of Lori and her brother Alex, who we will soon discuss thoroughly in this episode, their sister died from supposed diabetic shock. Alex was the only person home with Stacy at the time of her death, and it was later discovered that he used her credit card while she was dead in the home.
Did he not know that she was dead, supposedly, or?
No. But that being said, we're going to talk more about Alex, and he is a shady-ass character. So
he was before his death.
Yeah. But this is just only... You're really banging the shit out
Sorry,
of the table.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. But this is just one of many very suspicious things that he's going to do in this story. So just remember that back in 1998, he was the only one there with Stacy when she died.
So in 2001... Lori Vallow married Joseph Ryan, who is the biological father of Lori's missing daughter, Tylee, and she and Joseph adopted Colby. The two ended up filing for divorce in 2004, and Lori tried to gain full custody of Tylee for several years. Then, in 2018, Joseph died of a heart attack, and he was cremated.
Pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, Lori married Leland Charles Anthony Vallow in February of 2006. So obviously, we kind of skipped ahead there with the Joseph dying in 2018 of a heart attack. So Lori married Charles in 2006, and by all accounts, he was a great guy. He was born in Louisiana, he played semi-pro baseball, and he was liked by everyone who knew him. He and Lori adopted Joshua Vallow in 2013 when Charles's nephew had the child and could not care for him. The family, Charles, Lori, Joshua, and Tylee, all moved to Hawaii in 2014 to start a juice bar, but once that failed, they moved to Arizona in 2016.
Why would you try to move?
I have no idea. I was like, what kind of weird ass... That seems like a very...
I mean, it's just
I'm
so
wondering, is
weird.
that
Like,
even
why?
legit?
Like, why move all the way there to start a juice
I
bar?
have no idea. I have no idea. I really don't know, and I don't even know if that's legit.
Yeah, no kidding.
In 2015, Lori had begun to obsess over a book series that Chad Daybell had written called, and was continuing to write. It was a fictional series called Standing in Holy Places.
And one of Lori's friends actually stated that Lori was 100% into the end times. And she found herself drawn to Chad through the fictional doomsday books that he had written. I read, not Spirited Away, that's a movie.
Uh-huh.
What's it called? I think it's called Taken or something.
Oh, the Kirk Cameron.
Yeah. Is that Kirk Cameron?
The one where everybody's taken but you, and you're like, I'm alone. God, I forget what they're called, but it's awful. It's something. It's not
Terrible.
Taken.
No.
Taken is Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
I've got a very particular set of skills.
It's something, but I read those too when I was super into going to church.
Are you fucking with me right now?
No.
I thought you were gonna say that you read them out of
Actually, like ironically,
situation.
No, I totally read them.
Oh my god.
And then I was like, oh my god, this is so scary. But, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh.
I can't believe. I cannot believe. I just can't believe you were reading. Like, Kirk Cameron is the bane of my existence now that I know what he's on this little
planet to do. Yeah,
yes,
I
little
understand.
Podium. And what is that book called? I know everyone out there is screaming.
I know, they are.
This. Oh, what is it? Everyone. God. And you know that I'm going to talk about it for 5 more seconds. It's over. All right. But I know you're all screaming at your stereo right
now.
While
we're recording, I'll think about it and then I'll blurt it out.
It's Left Alone or something.
Oh, it's something like that.
Yes.
No, it was Left Behind.
Yes, yeah. It was, but we also just thought of that with our own brains matching.
I didn't Google it.
Okay, we really just came up with it. It was like Left Alone with my thoughts. Okay. Taken by Liam Neeson. Okay. So Chad Daybell is a real winner, everyone. He was born in Provo, Utah, and after a near-death experience, he had cliff jumping when he was 17. Who would have thought that could ever happen?
At 17? I know I was doing smart things at 17, so
cliff
not
jumping.
to me.
I mean, who would have thought death could happen when cliff jumping? That's insane. He claimed to have crossed into another dimension and realized that there was a world beyond this one. Now, before anyone gets any crazy ideas, I do not subscribe to this lunatic's beliefs, even if we can agree on the idea that there are multiple dimensions.
Oh wow, I didn't even think about that, but thanks for bringing that.
I know. I was feeling pretty defensive whenever I first read that. I was like, are you serious? This guy's like, god damn it. But anyway, I haven't crossed over into one, so Chad spent many years working as a cemetery sexton in Springville, Utah. He wrote multiple books about paranormal encounters that he had while working, and he was really just all about talking about these paranormal encounters that he had all the time.
You should have started a paranormal podcast.
He should have started a paranormal podcast instead of joining a cult. Yeah. But he made the wrong... Well,
we are everybody's family.
No, that said, we are too a cult, but it's the good kind of cult. He just doesn't know how to pick his cults. So...
Learn how to pick your cults,
pick your cults right, everyone. He would later attend BYU, Brigham Young University, where he would meet his first wife, Tammy Douglas. Chad is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a self-published author of books about the end times and near-death experiences.
So he had penned and self-published more than 25 doomsday books for Mormon audiences, including fantasies of a dystopian world wrought by bioterrorism attacks and catastrophic natural disasters.
Which really...
I'm sure right now he's like, I knew it. See what I'm telling you?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, what's going on right now is absolutely justifying these
for sure. For sure. I know it. I mean, that's terrible to say, but
No, they are, but
yes.
Well, these doomsday people, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
So... I just have to say, the fantasies of the dystopian world, bioterrorism attacks, natural disasters, these are all things that these creepy little doomsday preppers just fucking foam at the mouth and they're just masturbating constantly at the idea of coronavirus coming and
I told you guys. I mean, I've been saying it for 76 years, but I told you.
Gross. So he's just essentially he's just writing catastrophe porn.
Chad has spoken at several Preparing a People events, and he and Lori had appeared together on an episode of the organization's podcast where they discussed insights from his two near-death experiences and his, quote, visionary gift. This particular podcast episode is actually no longer available to stream online, although I'm sure you can find it. And Ashley and I actually listened to one of the episodes, and the hypocrisy was just so delightful. It was like... It was so perfect.
Well, it was nauseating. They, shockingly enough, had this podcast about preparing people for the second coming of Jesus. And like we said, there are a couple episodes. Now, there are a couple actually different podcasts. There's Preparing a People. They had another one that we'll talk about in a little bit where Lori and Chad were actually together multiple times. But you can't find those either. So there's some on YouTube. You can find them. It's just... about as much as you can take of a bunch of people just bloviating about all their trials and tribulations in life and all their skills and accomplishments and how great they are because they've made it through. Right. And how they have a higher calling in life and they're just all this stuff. So the FBI has actually been pouring through these podcast episodes for any kind of insight into the religion that they subscribe to and what may have happened to the missing children that have been gone since September, and there's no sign of them. No sign, no word whatsoever where they may be, nothing. We'll discuss a few of the notable things that they found and disclosed to the public later. The things that they were saying definitely begin to paint a picture about who these people were, what they believed, and how that enabled them to begin to see people in their lives, even their own children, as expendable. So Lori and Chad met in December of 2018 on that podcast, Preparing a People, on an episode entitled Time to Warrior Up.
Ooh, it's time.
Hoorah! So in an episode of Lori's podcast from that same month, she says that she knows that suffering leads to salvation, and even though she doesn't want her kids to suffer, she knows that they must in order to, quote, see the light. So in my opinion, that sounds very much like they gotta die in order to be saved, but... we'll continue on, and it's even more damning as we go on. In February of 2018, Lori vanished for 58 days. She left her husband, Charles, and her children and was just completely gone. It was at this time that Charles filed for divorce, citing that Lori threatened to murder him if he got in her way of ascending in her new role as translator with her religious organization. She reportedly stole $35 from their joint bank account.
Not $35.
I'm thinking about Eileen. She stole $35,000 from their joint bank account and claimed to be a reincarnated god as reasons for his filing for divorce, which I'd say are pretty legit.
Those are good reasons.
But remember the belief that she was a reincarnated god as we later delve into the belief system of this wacko cult and what that could mean for the larger picture of this story.
He had also told police that she thought she was, quote, a god assigned to carry out the work of 144,000 at Christ's second coming in July 2020.
Oh,
I mean, those doomsday cult ideas just always seem to pan out so well and every day.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every time the world is supposed to end, it ends.
It definitely has ended so many times.
When he stated that she would kill him if he got in her way, she had also said that an angel would be there to help dispose of the body.
Wow. That's like, I always have wished for an angel that could play with my hair and tickle my back.
Here I am for you then, Ashley. Shortly after her alleged threats, Charles took out an order of protection against Lori.
Oh, do it. Not that it would matter to her.
Yeah, not that it mattered in any capacity. No. He claimed that Lori had, quote, become infatuated and at times obsessive about near-death experiences, which we just discussed, and spiritual visions. He said he attempted to get her help. However, she refused to see a doctor because they would discover that she is a translated being.
Oh, my word. So, okay, good. I'm sure those doctors know just what to look for to be finding those translated beings. So, Charles had told his mother that he suspected that Lori and Charles Daybell were having an affair after the two started working on a podcast together where they were talking about their passion doomsday prepping for Jesus. Charles's mother, Kay Woodcock, said that she was shown several things in his email that indicated that Lori and Chad were having an affair. Because Jesus brought them together, y'all.
Well, yeah. Charles claimed Lori didn't want anything to do with him or Joshua, their adopted son, because she had a more important mission to carry out, according to the court documents that ended up coming out later. So Lori had actually taken out a $1 million life insurance policy on Charles.
Yes, but what I read Kay Woodcock say was that although that was true, shortly before his death, he actually changed the beneficiary on that life insurance policy because he was like, this bitch is trying to kill me.
Because he maybe listened to any true crime podcast or watched any true crime show or anything.
I think all he had to do was listen to her say, I'm going to kill you if you get in the way of me becoming my God self. Newly released body cam footage from police in Gilbert, Arizona show Lori entering the police station with her daughter Tylee and her friend Melanie Gibb, who we will talk about later, just days after Charles had filed the petition for her mental health to be evaluated. The cam footage shows Lori telling police that Charles had stolen her purse and her phone when she had left the home to drop their son, Joshua, off at school. She said, this time I caught him cheating and I had evidence and I told him about it and he travels a lot for business, so I told him about it and told him not to come home and that his stuff would be gone and his car would be gone and he was a little mad. Which is just lies. The video, I mean, as far as I know, I guess. I mean, perhaps that happened, but I highly doubt it. The video also shows both Tylee and Melanie Gibb speaking to police, Tylee saying the last that she spoke to her father was the night prior when he had texted her a link about their church, which I think sounded like he was sending her a link from outside of the church saying this church is dangerous. Because it is. The next day, Lori Vallow did check herself into the hospital for a mental health evaluation, but she was later discharged.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to tell you that is so easy to just fake.
Oh.
You can just tell a psychiatrist or psychologist, yeah, no, I'm feeling fine. And as long as you can fake it, you can make it through.
Right. And she's clearly good at manipulating. And when you're in a cult and you've been brainwashed,
you know how to do that.
Is she a brainwasher? So we'll get into this. It's so convoluted. The whole thing is convoluted as fuck. Okay. So on July 11th, 2019, Charles Vallow arrived to Alex Cox's home in Chandler, Arizona, which is Lori's brother. That's where they were. The family was living there at the time. The children and Lori were living with Alex Cox, which I'm sure was really just superb circumstances. And he was picking Joshua up to take him to school. An altercation between Charles and Cox occurred, wherein Cox said that Charles hit him in the head with a baseball bat. He then said, in self-defense, he shot Charles 2 times in the chest, killing him instantly. There were no charges filed at the time.
You had a baseball bat and you had a gun?
Yeah. Shot him 2 times.
Oh, okay.
I even have to wonder... To me, the baseball bat thing, okay, sure, maybe he did, but I almost think
I
they're
like,
doubt it. He was an old baseball player, so we could say he tried to hit me with a baseball bat.
Because he had the baseball bat, because he was an old baseball player.
Dude.
No.
According to the property manager, later that day, there was a pool party at the house with loud music and lots of people swimming. Charles's lawyer, Stephen Ellsworth, says that he was told by Charles months before his death that he, quote, wanted to make sure that everyone knows that if something happens to me, Lori and Alex did it. Oof. Whoa, that's quite foretelling. Charles's death was being investigated before Cox himself died in December, where he was found unresponsive in his home in Arizona before he could be questioned by police, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit.
How coincidental.
I know. What a coincidence. Footage from first responders at the scene, which was shown in an episode of Dateline that aired recently about the case, shows Lori acting incredibly calm and almost cheerful immediately after Charles's murder. Lori then texted Charles's sons from a previous marriage to let them know that their father was dead. A death text?
Oh my God.
She sounds like such a compassionate Christian woman.
Oh my gosh.
By the way, Alex Cox admitted in court prior to all this that he had tried and failed to kill Lori's previous husband, Joseph Ryan, in 2007. So as we said, Joseph Ryan died in an apparent heart attack, quote-unquote heart attack, in 2018. It's an interesting pattern that we are seeing develop here, and... oh, it's just bizarre. How can you admit to trying to kill somebody in court? And you're just...
And also lots of heart attacks that are occurring.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So last fall in Idaho, officials started looking into the disappearance of 7-year-old Joshua Vallow, who was adopted, and he is a special needs child. He's autistic. And 17-year-old Tylee Ryan, who hasn't been in school since September.
Investigators have determined that the kids haven't been seen at all by anyone since September, yet Lori and Chad never once reported them missing.
Authorities were only notified when Joshua's biological grandmother, Kay Woodcock, called authorities on September 25th, reporting that she had not heard from him in weeks. She said in the last few phone calls that she and her husband had with him, he sounded awkward, as though he was reading cue cards. Ugh.
And actually, I have a few kind of theories about this as we go along and get a little bit deeper into the details about what happened, because it's likely that's probably true.
Yeah, absolutely. Eventually, he stopped coming to the phone at all, and Lori would give them a myriad of excuses as to why he couldn't come to the phone. Now, they needed them to do a welfare check.
When the police showed up to Vallow's apartment to inquire about the boys' whereabouts, police say that Chad Daybell and Lori's brother Alex Cox spoke with them outside the apartment, at which time Chad acted like he really didn't know Lori very well at all and couldn't even tell them her phone number.
Okay.
The idiot Alex Cox then told them that Joshua was with his grandmother Kay Woodcock in Louisiana, which they knew to be false, considering she was the one who had called the police to ask them to do a goddamn welfare check on the boy. Then he told them that Lori might be found in apartment 107, but when they went to that apartment, it was vacant. And it sounds like a very Alex Anthony kind of thing to do. I'm like, is this boy
Oh my God,
related?
are they related to Casey?
Is this boy like a long-lost brother of Casey Anthony?
Jesus, what in the hell?
I know. Chad then attempted to drive away, but the police stopped him. He told them the last time he had seen Joshua was in apartment 107 in October. He also admitted that he did in fact know Lori's phone number, which no shit,
Of
dummy.
course you do, you dumb cunt.
That same day, 2 other detectives went to the apartment and spoke with Lori, who told them that Joshua was in Gilbert, Arizona, visiting her friend, Melanie Gibb, though when they attempted to reach Gibb, they were unable to do so. And, as we know, when a person's story is inconsistent in situations like this, right off the bat, right when it's first happened, it is because something very, very wrong has taken place and they are lying. Eventually, Gilbert police were able to reach Gibb on the phone, at which time she told them that she hadn't seen Joshua in months.
Okay.
I'm shocked.
About 10 days later, on December 6th, Gibb called police and told them that on November 26th, both Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow had called her separately, both asking her to lie and tell police that she had Joshua even though he was not with her.
That's a bad sign.
Rexburg Police Detective Ron Ball says that Lori's statement that Joshua was with Gibb delayed the investigation into the whereabouts and safety of Joshua by requiring us to take time to investigate a lead that was verified as false.
Which is obviously,
of course,
yeah, impeding the investigation and is part of the charges that were brought against her. Then on November 27th, Rexburg police obtained search warrants for 3 separate apartments in the city, one belonging to Vallow, one belonging to her niece Melanie, not her friend Melanie Gibb in Arizona, but another Melanie.
Her niece Melanie.
Yes. Yeah, she's also part of this organization, and her brother, Alex Cox's apartment. Police found neither child and suspected the couple left Rexburg the night prior. But then her cousin Melanie confirmed with them that the couple had in fact fled from the town the night of November 26th after they had spoken to the police at their apartment, which doesn't look suspicious at all.
No, that's normal.
Mm-hmm. In Vallow's apartment, they found a prescription bottle of autism medication for Joshua that had been filled in January of 2019 while they all lived in Arizona, but the bottle still had over a dozen pills in it and hadn't been filled since they had moved to Idaho. So the fact that this bottle still had pills in it and hadn't been filled since they had moved is disturbing for a number of reasons, but it will come into play later when we talk about some of the beliefs that Chad and Lori had about the children and them being possessed, which I'm wondering right now if he was just not given his medication and what as we have heard in many cult cases, these crazy cults always have, you know, they use demons as excuses for everything.
Yeah.
And so behavioral problems are always a demon has possessed the child or whatever. So keep that in mind, everybody, as we go along. Like I said, everything is so messy and convoluted, but it all comes back to certain elements that just repeat themselves over and over and over. In a search conducted of a storage unit rented by Lori, investigators found clothing, pictures, toys, and other personal belongings of both Joshua and Tylee. Lori abandoned the storage unit later and hasn't paid the bill since January, so she obviously doesn't give a fuck about any of that stuff, any of those memories of her children that haven't been seen in months. Police also discovered an email where Lori asked the organization that trained Joshua's service dog if they could find another family for the dog due to a, quote, change in life circumstances. The dog Bailey was picked up on August 30th. Well, are those change of life circumstances that you no longer have a son that requires a special needs dog because he's dead?
I think that's it.
Oh, the FBI has released photos of the last known sighting of Tylee when she, her brother, Lori, and Alex Cox took a few pictures at Yellowstone National Park on September 8th. They also showed a photo of a silver 2017 Ford F-150 pickup with the Arizona license plate that read CPQUINT. This is her brother Alex Cox's truck, and they asked that anyone who may have been in the area that day and happened to get any pictures of the missing kids, their mother, their uncle, or the truck anywhere in the background of their photos to reach out to them immediately. Police say that Tylee hasn't been seen since that day at Yellowstone Park on September 8th. Although her father is deceased, her brother, Colby Ryan, told police that he last spoke with her on August 30th when they FaceTimed with each other, and that any time after that, when he attempted to contact her, his mother Lori would make up excuses about why she couldn't talk to him, the main lie being that she was attending college at BYU, Idaho, which officials later confirmed she was not ever enrolled in any BYU program whatsoever. Investigators have revealed that Tylee's financial transaction card, which was in Lori's possession, has been used since her disappearance.
She's probably using that as, like, proof that, oh, she's alive. See, she's using her transaction card.
I think these people are mildly driven by money, and I almost wouldn't put it past her just wanting to use her fucking daughter's money.
I would not put it past a family to use their daughter's money.
Ugh, gross. In even more bizarre circumstances of this story, Ian Pulowski, Lori's cousin Melanie's new husband, who we will delve into a bit more in just a bit, was spotted at Yellowstone the very following day that this last sighting of Tylee was ever happened. So it's so suspicious and bizarre. I don't know what it means, but it happened, according to Dateline and some photos that they found and tied from his social media to their timeline. And I don't know what that could mean, but we're going to talk a little bit at the end of the episode about possibilities regarding Yellowstone.
So that said, Joshua was last seen on September 23rd at his school, Kennedy Elementary. The following day, Lori contacted the school saying Joshua would no longer be attending as she was going to begin homeschooling him. School officials later told the police that no requests were made for Joshua's transcripts, which is weird. If you're going to start homeschooling your child, don't you want the transcripts of what they know, and don't you have to, like, file so that in accordance with the government,
right,
you're teaching them correctly?
Yeah, and figure out where they are, what's going on, what you should be doing for records later. You would think that you would care about that stuff.
Both friends and a babysitter were told at the time that Joshua went to stay with his grandparents around September 24th. Again, Grandma was the one who called the police.
Yeah, so clearly that was a lie.
Right.
As investigators dug further, Joshua's grandparents, the Woodcocks, learned even more that distressed them about the welfare of their grandson for good reason. The most disturbing news came when they saw a video of Joshua swearing and acting erratically that was captured by a neighbor's doorbell camera in Rexburg. He was obviously not on his medication, which helped with his special needs. Kay said, "When I saw the Ring doorbell video, that scared me to death. And then finding out that she was telling neighbors that he was her niece's drug baby, not her son.
Oh, how sad.
Oh my God, that shows me how she was distancing herself from him. Maybe make it easier for her to do something to him."
No kidding.
What a cunt.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
I know, it gave me a little bit of a chill. Investigators also spoke with Chad Daybell's parents in Springville, Utah. who told them that when the couple visited in November, they told them that Lori was a, quote, empty nester.
She's got kids.
Yeah, she doesn't have kids, I guess.
Oh, she doesn't. Okay,
No.
Cool.
The sister of Chad's deceased wife, Tammy, told officers that she was told that Lori had no juvenile children.
Yeah. Ugh.
The news of the children's disappearance quickly made national headlines. Once police began investigating into the disappearances of the kids, they fell into a complete rabbit hole of bizarre circumstances, as we have, and we're not even a third of maybe we're a third of the way into the notes, and there's already so much that's like batshit crazy situation going on right now.
So for one, Lori and her new husband, Chad, were reportedly together 2 weeks before Chad's wife of 30 years died under what police say may be suspicious circumstances.
We're talking like a year ago. We're talking right around.
This happened.
This is yet another human being who is dead related to these people. Chad's wife.
Additionally, on October 2nd, which was 17 days before Tammy died, Lori purchased a malachite and silver band from Amazon, which she was later seen wearing in her wedding to Chad in Hawaii. She used her dead ex's credit card to make this purchase.
Oh my God, she's a nightmare.
This is all just like so suspicious.
Also, let us not forget that this ring purchase that she made was only a week or so after her 7-year-old special needs son was last seen again. And 3 weeks after her actual biological daughter was last seen by anyone forever and ever, amen. A day after the ring was purchased, she did a search for wedding dresses. Ugh. The Daybells ran a publishing company that produced his fiction books about end times and theology around the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I guess I could just say LDS, right?
Yeah.
As well as other authors' works. He also spoke at Preparing a People events hosted by Color My Media. So Daybell's wife, Tammy, who was 49, died in October from what her obituary said were natural circumstances.
And the suspicious thing is that he completely denied an autopsy.
Yeah. Yes.
Why would you deny that?
Right. Especially considering she was an altogether healthy, normal, like they said, okay, so I talk about this later, but I'll just say it now. The state is a coroner state, I think is what they call it, and meaning that when there's a death of somebody that seems totally out of place, the family can refuse an autopsy. In most states, that's absolutely unheard of. You are not able to refuse autopsy.
I don't even understand why that would be the case.
The fact that she was a healthy, active, 49-year-old woman with no prior health problems would have, in most states, required an autopsy, but in her case, not.
Oh, okay.
Tammy's funeral was held days later in what many described as with remarkable speed. According to one attendee of Tammy's funeral, it was really weird because the casket wasn't even there. It all came together so quick and felt rushed. There weren't a lot of people at the service.
Weird.
That seems very strange. Chad Daybell reportedly received over $430,000 in life insurance after she died and had made significant increases to at least one life insurance policy of hers shortly before she died. Jeez. The pair reportedly have 5 kids together who are all grown. On October 1st, which is the day that Lori rented the storage unit, she would later abandon, that was filled with the various belongings of her children's things. From the day it was rented through the next 2 months, Lori and 2 separate men visited the storage unit 10 times. Who was there putting stuff in Lori's storage unit? We know that for sure one is Chad and the other appears to be a bald man that is probably her brother Alex Cox, but it could also be her pal from her podcast, Jason Mo, probably Mao, who we will talk about a little bit further in this episode, but who initially doesn't seem like, he kind of seems like, poor guy just got tied up with a lot of craziness, but I think he might not be a great guy himself.
No. And then the other thing is that she was there and she was putting stuff away, and then like 2 days later, 3 days later, she was taking it back. Yeah. Like exactly what she was putting, she was taking it all back.
Yes.
Weird.
I know.
It's so weird.
That part reminds me of the missing family that I covered in an early episode that I can't remember their names now. Oh, it doesn't matter. That disappeared in the desert, but they ended up just being dead.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And they found their bodies and they found everything, but it was just like they were they, like, their own security cameras were, like, watching them put things into the car and taking them out, and it looked weird.
In this case, I'm pretty sure it was strategic for
sure.
murdering purposes.
Yeah.
On October 4th, Tammy, the ex-wife of Chad, visited her parents in Springville, Utah, where she did a Zumba class, a clogging class, and they said she was totally happy, normal, appeared completely healthy. Interestingly enough, 10 days before her death on October 9th, she said that she pulled into the driveway one evening when suddenly a masked man stood at the back of her car and shot at her multiple times with what she assumed was a paintball gun, but she thinks it might have been empty. The person then ran around to the back of the house and disappeared. One of the couple's adult sons ran out and searched all around the property but could find nobody.
Oh, okay.
This is interesting considering the Daybells live in a fairly rural area with no neighbors at all. And Tammy saw no car go past, and there really was nowhere for this masked person to go hide. So who was it that appeared in the ski mask behind her car that night? And was it really a paintball gun, or was it a real gun with a silencer that misfired?
Yes.
Why didn't they call the police? Do you think it's possible that Chad discouraged her from doing so?
Probably, most likely, yes, I do think that.
Do you think that possibly it was Chad that...
Probably, most likely, yes, I do think that.
Because otherwise, he perhaps helped hide someone who went behind the house and hid, because there's literally nowhere for them to go.
Regardless.
I'll post pictures on Instagram of his home because someone took some and posted them online, where it's literally, there's nowhere for you to hide. And if you went behind her car, where did you come from without having a car close by?
No way.
Where are you
with
gonna
a ski mask?
I mean, and maybe the gun misfired, maybe the person was frightened, got freaked out, who knows, but I find it very suspicious that her son found no sign of this person whatsoever.
Then, on October 19th, again, 10 days later, family members found Tammy dead in her home. Chad called her parents after she died and said she had gone to bed with a terrible cough and never woke up. Okay, I've gone to bed with a terrible cough, but yes. Jesus. That's not like
that's a bad.
That's terrible. That's like
excuse.
The worst. That's like the worst excuse.
Right. The police obviously later questioned that Tammy Daybell's death had been the result of, quote, natural causes, and they had her body exhumed from the cemetery in which she was buried in Springfield, Utah, for an autopsy, the results of which have not been released to the public. The very next day after Tammy's body was exhumed was when Alex Cox was found dead inside his home.
There were sources that told CBS News that there is digital evidence linking Alex Cox to Tammy Daybell's death. And for that, I'm confident that we are all just sitting here with our jaws on the floor, completely shocked.
I cannot wait for some of this information to come out through the trial.
I know. On October 25th, one of Tylee's friends received a text from her phone. Friend wasn't really sure who it was actually from, as she hadn't heard from Tylee in over a month. And the message didn't really sound like her.
Oh, and we know her mom's in possession of her stuff.
100%.
So we're saying pretty much that Lori was sent out a text to be like, "Hey, I'm Tylee. What's up, bud?"
Oh no! Can you imagine?
What a bitch!
You know, when it's me texting and if it wasn't me texting you, you'd be like, "Why do you sound like this?"
Right. And so her friend knew. Well, obviously no one has seen her in a month or over a month. So 12 days after Tammy's death, Chad wrote an essay titled "Moving into the Second Half of My Life."
Oh, 12 days.
In it, he says, "My dear wife Tammy passed away in her sleep early Saturday, October 19th. When I awoke at around 6 a.m., it was clear she had been gone for several hours."
Hold on. How can you tell if somebody's been gone for several hours?
He has a special way of reading auras.
Oh, he does. That's fair.
And... wow, so you're telling me that she's a totally healthy lady and she just magically, peacefully died like 3 hours after she went to sleep.
How crazy.
He says, "It came as a shock. I couldn't believe I hadn't been awakened somehow, but all indications are that her spirit simply slipped away during the night." All indications. Her face looked serene with her eyes closed and a slight smile. It was devastating to discover her that way, but I'm so grateful that her death was peaceful. I'm in the process of implementing what she had told me to do. She has indicated that my life has two parts that were planned even before I came to Earth.
Oh, she indicated that. Okay.
He's laying the groundwork to go bone this other lady in public.
For sure.
Come November, Lori and Chad both told a witness that Tylee died in 2017. So, that's good.
Yeah.
It was at this time that Chad told another witness that Lori had no minor children.
Yep.
He also, like I said earlier, said this to his family.
So Alex Cox, Lori's psychotic-ass brother, and who we're probably going to infer as the enforcer in this cult,
Yes.
was actually married on November 29th to a woman named Sulema, and 12 days later, he was found dead.
Yep. His new wife had a 13-year-old child who reportedly called 911 shortly after they were married, and we do not know why at this point, but I'm sure it had something to do with how the mom's new husband thought everyone was a demon, and he was tasked with, quote, releasing their mortal bodies, so their spirits could ascend to heaven or something along those
Something
lines.
like that.
There are about 2 weeks for which Chad and Lori are unaccounted for, between their departure from Idaho, when they ran from the police, to their arrival in Hawaii. No one really knows where they were. And it's at this time that Alex Cox was found dead.
Since then, the couple was found in January in Hawaii driving near a beachside resort that they had actually been living in just after their 2-week disappearance, where they ran from Idaho.
And probably killed Alex Cox.
And have ignored court-ordered deadlines to bring the children to authorities, and the whereabouts of the children still remain unknown.
So to further that, the pair had married only a few weeks after Tammy's death.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 in, some days.
Now they were living in Hawaii without the children, as Lori is seemingly not worried one bit about their quote-unquote disappearance. Right. Kids are missing?
Most concerned parents would move away from the only place the kids knew where to find them and get married on the beach.
Right.
Don't dwell on the past, y'all.
Yeah, move on, everybody.
Yep.
According to East Idaho News, Idaho courts filed a Child Protection Act against Lori Vallow, ordering her to bring her children to authorities, which they say she has, quote, already shown a willingness to ignore the court order given to her in January to present the kids. So she's refused to do so for now over 3 months and has simultaneously refused to give them any information of where they might be or what has happened to them or any sign that they are alive.
So on February 4th, that storage company that we were talking about in Idaho released security footage showing Vallow visiting a storage unit in October and November, where she, and again, like we said, who people think is her brother Alex Cox, left behind items that belonged to the 2 children. According to the East Idaho News, the belongings included photographs, clothing, bicycles, and blankets.
Pretty much everything.
Everything that you would expect a child to have.
Mm-hmm.
On February 10th, CBS News reported that Idaho police had recently found Tylee's cell phone with Lori and Chad, and that it had been used after the 17-year-old's disappearance. In October, a month after Tylee had disappeared, 2 small Venmo payments were made from Tylee's phone to a family member. Also, on October 25th, a text was allegedly sent from the phone to a concerned friend. Hi, miss you guys too, ... love ya. According to the report, the friend found the text suspicious because it probably didn't sound like her.
Right.
Then on February 20th, Kauai police arrested Lori, but not Chad for some reason.
I guess they have just more
evidence on her.
Yeah. Her bail was set at $5 million, obviously, because she's already shown an unwillingness to cooperate with law enforcement. Plus, she was pretty much already on the lam. On Friday, March 6th, she appeared before the court for the first time after being arrested in Hawaii the month prior. At that point, her bond was lowered to $1 million for some reason, and she continued to be held in Madison County Jail in Rexburg, Idaho, where she was transferred, at this point facing charges of desertion and non-support. It was at this time that Chad Daybell told ABC reporters that the kids are safe, but did not elaborate further.
Okay.
I'm sure in his mind they are. A few days later, a set of emails were released that were sent from his email to Lori's, where he described, quote, 7 missions that the two had to accomplish together. This sounds very troubling already.
Absolutely.
Some of the ideas shared in the email included translating ancient records, writing a book about the translating of these ancient records.
I need you to write these, and then I need you to write about writing them.
Another was identifying locations in Arizona for, I guess, what they're trying to establish as, quote, white camps. I'm not surprised.
Okay.
Another was the, quote, presidency of the Church of the Firstborn, then establish food distributions as the, quote, tribulation start. And like I said in my notes, and we kind of touched on earlier, I bet this COVID situation has given them a real sense of vindication.
Oh my God.
And yet another on this laundry list of insanity is that the pair need to ordain individuals to translation, whatever that means, we'll kind of delve into it a little bit further, and provide supplies to righteous members of families.
Okay.
Half the shit they say just sounds like the most mumbo-jumbo garbled.
Oh, it's nuts. It's insanity.
Yes.
So, Lori Vallow's niece's ex-husband, try to follow that chain, y'all, Brandon Boudreaux, claims that she knows where the children are. He claims that his wife began spending time with Lori and the religious group that she was associated with and suddenly demanded a divorce over the summer. I thought I had a happy marriage, so it was pretty overwhelming, he said.
Which sounds very familiar to Lori's story.
Absolutely.
There's an ongoing child custody case between Melanie Boudreaux and Brandon Boudreaux. The case involved testimony from Ian Pulaski, the new husband of Melanie, if you can keep track of all these people, as well as documents obtained from Ian Pulaski's ex-wife Natalie, who found a bunch of documents about the crazy cult on Ian's computer.
It's a lot. Well, because Melanie and Ian got married a week after the divorce was finalized.
Yes.
So it's a lot.
Yes.
Brandon Boudreaux also says that his ex-wife is heavily involved in a doomsday cult in which numerous members, adults and children alike, have been being killed off like flies. Vallow has also been accused of being consumed with doomsday theories,
which we've heard from multiple people.
Brandon made claims about the Vallows thinking her children were zombies in a court filing connected to his own custody battle with his ex-wife. It's so convoluted.
I know, but listen to this. This is not good. Pulaski said that Melanie had been told by Chad and Lori that her children had been possessed and had become zombies. She shared concerns that she'd been told that Brandon needed to die, and that may indicate that Tylee and Joshua needed to die as well. She told me she was worried that Alex may have had to quote-unquote take care of the kids. She explained that Alex, had great faith and never wavered in his trust in the Lord. No task would be too difficult or great for him.
How pious.
It's great whenever you can justify anything with your religion.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just great. Melanie told Pulaski that Chad and Lori had told her that her ex, Brandon, had been possessed by a demon or other dark entity, and if something didn't happen to him, something would happen to him, but that something, quote, needed to be done in order for his spirit to progress and the Lord's plan to continue. That is some messed up stuff right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as a matter of goddamn fact, Brandon was shot at in October of 2019, which we'll discuss in just a minute.
Pulaski allegedly told her husband that she learned about some of these beliefs from a temple and from Lori and Chad. Ian Pulaski said the first time he heard about this, it was a, quote, jolt, but that he tried to keep an open mind. You know, you want to keep an open mind when it comes to your children becoming zombies.
Right, and marrying
Yes.
someone that's telling you the craziest nut stuff you've ever heard.
Keep an open mind, Ash.
Keep an open mind. Within a span, I'm sure he was just like, what did I do?
Yep.
Or maybe he's more sinister himself in this thing.
Possibly.
Within a span of 5 months, Melanie had left her ex, Brandon, moved to Idaho and married Ian. And the day she moved, she did so unexpectedly in the middle of the night, leaving all of her kids' belongings on the sidewalk, moved right next to Lori in an apartment in Rexburg, Idaho, without her children. In a custody document presented in their case, Brandon said, quote, if she ever had any intention of having her kids with her again, you'd think she would have taken their belongings with her. But she had moved to Idaho, married Ian Pulaski, and within months, she was pregnant with his child.
Perfect.
Pretty sure she's like, oh, old life, let's forget about it.
Bye.
Kids, who are you? I have a new kid now. It's a chosen child. As it may not be difficult to believe, the beliefs of this group of people have been a huge consideration to investigators and are definitely mentioned numerous times in court documents. In the documents from Melanie and Brandon's custody case, some of these religious beliefs are delved into a little deeper, and please everybody, hold on to your butts. The docs outline a very interesting point system for advancing towards eternity in the, quote, Church of the Firstborn in 144,000. What a truly moving name, to be sure. It also sounds a little bit like another cult called the Church of Scientology.
Oh, a smaller cult.
Yeah, a little tiny one. You may have heard of it. The members of this church of the 144,000 are going to be saved as Christ's second coming, and they believe that some people are under some sort of zombie-like demonic possession.
Oh, strange. It sounds like a very small cult.
Right.
The same small cult.
This is interesting, considering that these fools seem to be under some kind of neo-Christian zombie possession themselves, but, you know, they don't see their own issues. Mm-mm. Okay, so there's this document. It's in the court documents, and it is Ian writing out. It's what Ian's ex-wife found on his computer that was at their home, where he was actually outlining the beliefs of this church, I guess you can say.
Oh my god.
It's very convoluted, as I know we've used that word a number of times already, but it's true. And we're going to read it. I don't really understand exactly how it goes, but let's just dive into it. So, number 1 are multiple probations. And under this, it says that a person has a minimum of 9 mortal lives to become exalted, but more to become gods. After 2 mortal lives, you can choose to sign a light contract or a dark contract. And choosing the light or the dark isn't permanent. You can change it later.
Okay. So, I don't know. So, okay, what's the point of a contract?
If you're indecisive, you're fine. You can choose not to be reborn if you are satisfied with your progress, and the veil grows thinner each time you are reborn, whatever that means. There are multiple sealings possible, SEALING, but males can choose one true spouse or have many.
Oh, good.
Good for them. So the next section is translation, and it's not what you would think. Translated beings are actually, humans, and they cannot supposedly die. They cannot reproduce. They do not need sleep or food, and they do not feel the sorrow of the world. While injury is possible, healing is accelerated, and it's never fatal to be injured.
Good.
The next step is done in multiple phases and tests. It usually lasts 3 days. Upon completing the last phase, the Lord appears to the translated. And I guess this can be a physical appearance by God, where it can be a physical ailment from sexual desire to disease to severe fatigue.
Well, yeah, if you're sleepy or horny, yeah, God. That's God.
I also think it's funny that they were calling sexual desire an ailment, but, the next way he could appear to you would be emotional. And it says any emotional or mental ailment. And then there's a subcategory spiritual. And then the next is a great test of faith, a time of darkness and doubt. And it's what am I saying? Subcategory is sexual question mark? The third is possible new phase, discovered as husband and wife become more united sexually, possibly increasing their power or quote unquote vibration. Yeah. There are 50 dark translated human beings. Only 50. I'm wondering what happens if someone chooses dark and then there's 51. Yeah. Does number 1 die off or what? And surprisingly enough, there are 2 detectives, Hope and Hermosillo, that have been identified as dark translated humans that were working on Lori Vallow's case.
That chose to be dark translated humans?
Yes.
Oh, that sounds good as far as them working on her case.
It's a coincidence.
Yep.
It's It's
good that they're working on that because they believe the same crazy ass bullshit that she does.
No, they are not followers of this church.
Oh, they've been deemed as such.
They've been deemed as dark translated human beings by these people.
Okay, so then that's even more shocking.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
That the people that are actually investigating her case are dark translated human beings.
I'm shocked that the people being investigated are calling the people investigating them dark translation.
Yes, I'm floored, as I'm sure our audience is.
These dark translated humans supposedly work under the direction of Satan, Lucifer, and Cain.
Kane, huh?
So
I love how Kane always comes into play.
Yeah.
Like, you're just... Okay, keep going.
The next piece of their belief system are stats, which are measured by vibrations, which could indicate a person's spiritual strength. If they're above a certain level, which he thinks it might be 1,000 level of strength, garments are no longer necessary. So I'm assuming those... What are those called? The lock and key undergarments are
chastity belts.
Get those out of here. No, they're not called chastity belts in the latter day in LDS, aren't they?
Oh, I don't know what they're called in
Okay.
LDS. I know what they're called in life.
But you reach 1,000, get those things out of there. You can wear thong
don't need
all you
that.
want, baby. And then higher vibrations can help to thin the veil a little. There's always a thinning of the veil between this and the other. I mean, God, some of it does sound like stuff I subscribe to almost, but it's just not quite the same. So the next measure of their statistical greatness in the church is libido. It can be measured by 1 to 100, and then obviously they say it's an indication of sex drive.
Oh, that's what libido is. Got it.
Thanks for letting me know. Then there's trust level, which is an indication of how much someone can be trusted.
Got it. Thank you.
God, thank you for the explanation. Then there's their light and their dark percentage, which is an indication of how much light and darkness can dwell in one person's body.
Oh. So again, self-explanatory. Thank you for that again.
So your godliness in this church is measured in vibration, libido, trust level, and your light to dark percentage.
Oh,
so
God.
Okay, good, thanks. So let's move on to the next contract, the next subject, which is zombies. As we spoke about earlier, Chad was saying that Lori's children had become these demonic possessed zombies. So what they're saying about these people is human bodies that have their own original spirits forced from them and have been possessed by either a demon, which was an original third of the heavenly host who then followed Lucifer, or a disembodied spirit, which is a once living human spirit who has not chosen to be reborn into other probations, or, the best yet, a worm or a slug, which is a creature that's controlled by Lucifer that enters the body to control the host. I mean, isn't that the subject of every sci-fi movie?
Yes.
A little worm gets in their head and it's a demon. And
yes.
God damn it, you guys. They are not original with their thoughts in any way whatsoever. Spirits can be pushed from the bodies during traumatic events or deadly injury. So I read that when there was supposed to be a big earthquake or something like that, they would go like, make ready, so that they could save people who were being possessed by demons during this traumatic large-scale event.
I'm sorry, but doesn't this also sound like Thetans
Yes.
from Scientology? I mean,
Yes. No, they really ripped off a lot of Scientology.
they totally ripped off Scientology here.
Spirits were pushed out and are then trapped in limbo as the body that they're tied to is still living, but cannot be occupied by them anymore. And then these spirits that are trapped in limbo cannot progress to a new mortal life and cannot re-enter their existing body. The only way for them to move forward is to await the death of their current possessed body. So, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to make some ties here and follow the steps that are being laid out that anyone you deem to be possessed by this demonic entity needs to be killed in order to save them. Now, they say that this possession is an illegal action against heavenly law that's performed by the possessor. But what does that really make any difference?
Then there is teleportation, and when translated beings are needed, they may, with of course the Lord's permission, teleport to the necessary location to perform their assigned duties.
Oh, so Lori's able to teleport somehow. She hasn't teleported herself right out of jail.
That's so weird. Why wouldn't you? Maybe the Lord hasn't allowed her to do that yet.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
There are dark and light portals. Physical objects all around us have ties to the spiritual world and can open portals or gateways of both light and darkness through which light and dark entities may pass. The Church of the Firstborn and the 144,000. Church of the Firstborn is a higher organization and God's church in its truest form on earth. The mysteries of God are revealed to those who have become a part of it. Terrestrial blessings and locations begin to be revealed to the members.
Special party perks.
Party perks. Doctrines, quote, add to but do not replace, those of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The prophet of the Mormon Church presides over the general congregation, while others are called specifically to run the Church of the Firstborn.
It's a very elite group inside of this. Mm-hmm.
Multiple branches are there throughout the world. There are multiple branches of the Church of the Firstborn and the 144,000. The 144,000 are called to bring to pass all signs of the second coming of Christ. There are multiple groups specializing in different powers and activities. And Chad and Lori's group specializes in healing and music.
Would you ever imagine those two are in charge of healing and music? Really?
There's a patriarchal order of the Holy Melchizedek priesthood, in which a higher priesthood is bestowed to Chad.
Of course.
By Peter, James, and John. Priesthood keys and authority are bestowed upon women.
Thank you so much.
And women may perform all of the same blessings and ordinances as men.
Oh, you're so gracious.
Thank you for your graciousness.
Mm-hmm. My lord.
My lord, my lady.
So the next aspect of this church that they write about here, that Ian is writing about in his little manifesto, I suppose, is the dark church and priesthood, where they say Satan is God's exact opposite, that Lucifer has a body and was once an apostle who fell. Cain was the first dark being to be translated in this creation, and he walks the earth with 50 dark translated beings to prevent and delay the Lord's second coming. There are spiritual gifts and powers, which people can manipulate the elements to do the Lord's will and bring to pass signs of his second coming, which I'm assuming they're trying to claim that Chad and Lori were able to do. They say that if you can imagine it, it's real. And they say every fantastic idea is a reality somewhere. This is so cheesy. And then the subcategory under every fantastic idea is a reality somewhere, Harry, is magic. Then wizards, sorcerers, witches, etc. They say spells and curses in Harry Potter are real and require a great focused will to use them.
I'm sorry,
Harry Potter.
They literally say Harry Potter?
Literally say Harry Potter.
Ashley, hold on. They literally say Harry Potter? I have to verify that with you.
Okay.
Oh my God.
It's in the court document. I typed it directly from the court document.
They need to contact Joanne Rowling, for fuck's sake. JK. JK Rowling. Her first name's Joanne.
And they're real and they require great focus will to use. Do they think that JK is a fucking prophet herself?
I think they do. They fucking must.
So they do believe in supernatural creatures, which I'll give that one to them. And then these, I'm like, oh gosh. Okay, so dragons, giants, fairies, centaurs, etc., they're all real. Then there are spiritual weapons. There are dark and light weapons. There are weapons that cannot be perceived by celestial beings that injure and scar the spirit.
Oh.
There are cords which tie people to things, both light and dark, that influence us. And then there is spiritual healing, which there's a healing malachite solution and balm that they recommend. And malachite is said to have healing properties and is to be administered by calling on it in a blessing.
Okay.
And I'll talk a little bit more about malachite in a little while. According to documents filed by Ian Pulowski's ex-wife, Ian himself said that there were some fun and exciting ideas in the church, but that they admittedly seemed like they were ripped straight out of a Dungeons and Dragons manual. You don't say.
Yeah, Jesus.
As always, these fucked up cults always have to slip some sort of weird sexual angle into the mix, and the Church of the Firstborn and 144,000 is no exception. As we just heard in the documents, there are details about quote-unquote stats by which a member of the church was rated based off their level of vibrations, their libido, and their trustworthiness. Get in, losers. We need to get you some new ideas because this is ripping off, like we've already said a million times, Scientology. I mean, really, there's just calling it a horse by a different name, whatever the saying is. I don't think it's a horse.
It's a rose.
Rose by any other name. Okay. A prominent belief that is seen a number of times in the court documents is this belief of zombies.
Some of these insane beliefs were also outlined by Lori's late husband, Charles, who we recall was later killed by Lori's brother this past December in his divorce documents. He said that Lori claimed to be a translated being, and again, translated beings claim that they are beings that cannot die, they cannot reproduce, they do not need to sleep or eat, and they cannot feel the sorrow of the world.
I'm sure that's very accurate because you're a fucking sociopath.
That's exactly what I was
because you're a
thinking.
translated being.
No. Yep, you can't feel the sorrows of this world because you're a socio.
Yeah.
It's in these writings where Pulowski stated that Melanie had told him that her ex Brandon had been possessed sometime in late June of 2019, which is a goddamn coinky-dink that all these people in their lives just ended up being possessed and then died.
Right. That's just their fault.
Yeah. Don't get possessed. No. Melanie was then told, either through Chad Daybell or Revelation, either one, same thing, like seriously.
Right.
That something needed to happen to Brandon Boudreaux.
Which we talked about earlier.
Which at the time, Melody did not take too well because she still loved him and didn't want anything bad to happen to him. I mean, I guess this was probably before the cult really got its clutches into her.
Right.
But then she divorced him, so okay.
Yeah. Pulowski then says that he became concerned when Boudreaux was then shot at one evening on October 2nd as he was driving home from the gym, the bullet only missing him by a few inches. Melanie then told Pulowski that she was worried that Chad and Lori may have directed Alex Cox to shoot at Brandon. It was later discovered the drive-by vehicle was a Jeep registered to the deceased Charles Vallow, Lori's ex-husband. Tylee routinely drove the Jeep, but at that point, she had been missing for over a month. The security footage from the storage unit that they released in February showed at one point Lori and Chad rolling a spare tire and a removable back seat into the storage unit on the same day that Brandon was shot at. And then the next day, it showed Lori and another man carried out the tire and the back seat the very next day. And I looked into it a little bit and I was thinking about it. And also, as we know, as you've probably seen a million times, or if you have a Jeep, there's usually a spare tire on the back of a Jeep.
Yeah.
And you can't take the window down if it's there. So you have to take the tire off in order to be able to put the window down. And you also have to probably be able to take the back seat out if you're going to hold up a gun and shoot at somebody that's about to drive by. So they probably, it seems like they removed that tire and that seat in order so that somebody could shoot at Brandon, and then moved it back the next day after that happened. So obviously it seems as though there was a bunch of them in on this Brandon scheme because there was a Jeep registered to Charles Vallow. For fuck's sake. Oh my God. Okay. Melanie said, and we already mentioned it somewhat, but it bears repeating, that Lori and Chad had told her that Alex Cox had, quote, taken care of the kids shortly before his death in December, which she said she had zero doubt that this was something that her uncle Alex was capable of doing, like we already said, as she said his faith was of the utmost importance to him. He never wavered in his faith for the Lord, or in this case, like many others, some psychotic humans' interpretation of who the Lord is, and said that no task would be too great or difficult for him, including killing 2 kids because they're zombies. And that's when Ian Pulowski, who seemed to be a real indoctrinated trooper up until this point, started to panic. He spent days trying to convince himself that he didn't just marry into such an absolutely horrific situation, tried to justify his actions in the matter, but was altogether unable to get himself to that point. I can't imagine why. Shortly after finding these writings on her computer, Pulowski's ex, Natalie, went to the police as she was justifiably worried about Melanie and the safety of the children that she shared with Ian Pulowski. Obviously. Surprisingly, he decided to go with her to the police to outline everything he understood about the situation to the authorities. According to the police documents, they attempted to have Ian record his conversations with both Chad and Lori to catch something incriminating, but in the end, they were never able to capture anything substantial because they just talked about the Lord and the church and what they wanted to do with the church. Eventually, Ian admitted to Melanie that he had been speaking with police about the situation, and she told him that she was now unsure what she believed about the, quote, religious aspects anymore.
Okay.
That's convenient, too.
Yeah.
He later wrote that he now truly believes that Melanie knows nothing about who shot at Brandon or what happened to Tylee and Joshua. He says she's been put through the ringer due to Lori and Chad's paranoia.
Poor thing.
And is now in the hot seat because he went to the police. He says he wants to free her from everything as she has done nothing wrong.
Ugh,
he said,
what a martyr.
I know, gosh. And he said, why not simply provide proof that the kids are okay and put an end to this insanity? Isn't it off that the 2 detectives assigned to your case happened to be 2 of Kane's Dark 50? Your kids are missing, and it doesn't come up once during a handful of lengthy conversations that he had with her, with either one of them. So obviously, to anyone else, they're acting as though those kids don't exist. In early March, Chad's attorney, Mark Means, and Madison prosecuting attorney Rob Wood requested that Lori Vallow's preliminary hearing that was scheduled for March 17th and 18th to be postponed until May, possibly as the state and the defense want to gather more evidence. Additionally, Lori's other 2 lawyers, Elcox and Webb, withdrew from the case. Why? I can't imagine why. Means also filed paperwork requesting that the presiding judge, Farron Edens, be removed from the case. The request was filed the same day that the FBI announced it was going to host a meeting, a multi-agency superhero task force, if you will. They released a statement saying that the FBI, the Rexburg Police Department, and numerous law enforcement agencies investigating cases related to Lori Vallow and her missing children, JJ, Joshua Vallow, and Tylee Ryan, are meeting this week in Salt Lake City to coordinate, review, and share information. This is not a new effort. Similar coordination meetings have been routinely conducted since the beginning of these investigations. As sensitive matters may be discussed, and as the investigations remain active and ongoing, we are not providing any further information about the meetings.
Okay.
Multiple sources suggest that the FBI has begun to investigate into the death of Lori Vallow's 3rd husband, Joseph Ryan, who we said earlier died in 2018 from a reported heart attack. As Phoenix police say that they have handed the information of Joseph Ryan's death to the FBI. Though the couple divorced in 2004, court documents show that a custody battle began over the couple's daughter Tylee, who is now missing, as we know. The documents show that Joseph Ryan claimed that Lori would not let him see their daughter despite their custody agreement, and that after one visit with Tylee, Lori's brother Alex, who seems to be the muscle of the cult, like we said, attacked Joseph with a stun gun. It's a crime for which he was later convicted, and it's that one that we spoke about earlier where he claimed he was trying to kill him. Oh. After his death in 2018, Lori told a friend that she received the payout from his life insurance policy and planned to share it with Tylee.
Oh.
What a generous ass bitch. You're not even remotely married to him
Why
anymore.
Would she even receive the payout for
his
his
life
life insurance?
He must have never changed it, or maybe...
Change your life insurance policy, y'all.
Or maybe it was because Tylee was underage. I don't really know.
That's probably...
awful.
Ugh.
On March 11th, Lori's other son, Colby Ryan, who she had with Joseph, spoke to his mother in jail, after which he told Justin Lum of the Fox 10 News in Utah, who has done an amazing job covering this case. He told him that he pleaded with her to do the right thing. He said it was an emotional conversation, and it ended with Lori telling him that she loves him, which...
The judge said during a phone hearing on Friday that he would remove himself from the case after Vallow's attorneys filed paperwork asking that he no longer preside over the case.
Because he just, heard too much. He heard too many facts already?
Yeah. They also say that Lori and her husband, Chad, have repeatedly lied about their children's whereabouts, harkening back to the good old Casey Anthony. First saying she was with a babysitter, living the good life, going to theme parks, and that then the babysitter stole her, and then we found the bodies, and that's fine.
There's so many similarities.
Yada, yada, yada.
An email sent on March 24th from Arizona homicide detective Nathan Moffat suggests that Lori may actually be brought to justice over the death of her ex-husband. In part, it read, "We continue to work on Charles's case and are confident we are getting closer to getting Lori indicted for the involvement in Charles's death."
Good.
According to police, Lori Vallow has never been ruled out as a suspect in his death. Good again. The latest news on the case came a day ago when the Idaho Attorney General said that they are investigating both Lori and Chad for conspiracy, attempted murder, and or murder. The Attorney General is taking full responsibility for the new investigation into Tammy Daybell's death as well. Chad has yet to be arrested for anything as of this point, as I'm sure they're watching him and waiting for him to screw up on something, get him good when they're confident that their case is fully prepared. They also said, I read that he has been looking, I think he's getting financing for a double-wide trailer that he's going to put on some land. And that's what he's doing right now with himself. So
good
that's
for him.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. There are some other people in these characters' lives. Like we said, we already named a bajillion of them. If you could keep them straight, I would give you an award. But Michael and Nancy James, who are the organizers of the Preparing a People group, released a statement on their website that said, "We were deeply saddened to learn of the sudden death of Tammy Daybell, the wife of Chad Daybell, but could not attend the funeral. We considered Chad Daybell a good friend, but have since learned of things we had no idea about. Sure. As many of you know, Chad was a speaker at some of our Preparing a People events and appeared on several of our Preparing a People podcasts. We also produced a series for Chad, Glimpses Through the Veil."
Oh, they love the veil.
They love the veil. "We recently learned of Chad's new marriage to Lori Vallow a couple weeks after Tammy Daybell died. Lori Vallow was a contributor on the Time to Warrior Up podcast with Jason Mao and Melanie Gibb, and she also co-hosted the Feel the Fire podcast with Melanie Gibb. We did not know Lori as well as we thought we knew Chad." Well, you didn't know either of them at all.
Clearly.
Or maybe you did because y'all are nuts too.
Yeah.
"In light of current concerning media reports and ongoing criminal investigations regarding the recent death of Lori Vallow's previous husband in Arizona and the sudden death of Chad Daybell's previous wife in Idaho, and with new reports of Lori's missing children and the death of Lori's brother-in-law and the unknown whereabouts of Chad and Lori, we feel it inappropriate to promote any media content that may feature or contain references to either Chad Daybell or Lori Vallow. Our hearts go out to Chad and Lori's family and friends who are now affected by this ongoing, confusing tragedy. We pray for the truth of whatever happened to be quickly manifest, and we pray for the safe return of Lori's two beautiful children." How convenient. And I highly doubt that it's out of reverence for...
No, it's not.
You're just trying to distance your crazy little group from these crazy ass
Listen
people.
to me. In addition to that, on their website, there's a huge paragraph. In addition to that huge paragraph that you've already read, it says, "We decided in early spring of 2019 to close out our Preparing People commitments and moved back to Utah from Rexburg, Idaho to work with clients based in the Utah area, which has always been the bulk of our work. None of this has had anything to do with Mr. Daybell."
No.
I swear to God.
We just wanted to move right away because that just so happened to coincide.
No, it's just so weird how it's so coincidental.
So many coincidences.
We're also amazed at the lack of journalistic standards by several news sources. Preparing People is part of a media company that films speakers on a variety of topics not affiliated with any specific religion. Parentheses. See the disclaimer below, which has always been on all our websites. It is not a group, and it is not a cult or something people join, but has educational lecture events that can be attended or watched on video. We have provided multimedia services for a wide variety of other events and clients. Mr. Daybell did not start, own, or control any part of our media company. Neither he nor any speaker was paid to speak at our events.
Okay, so you're just cheap? What does that say?
Yeah. We also do not share any of Chad Daybell's or Lori Vallow's beliefs if they are contrary to Christian principles of honesty, integrity, and truth, or if they do not align with the doctrines of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Please stop.
So another dude that we've spoken about a little bit is Jason Mao, who is also being investigated by the FBI in regard to this case, thankfully. And he is who Lori initially began the podcast with. He is an author who writes the end of day. Oh God, he writes more. He also writes into every fucking person in this group writes end of days novels that he calls the war chapters, which are published by Chad Daybell's publishing company. And according to his website, his books encourage all readers to find inspiration and awaken the warrior spirit within themselves. He claims to be a former decorated Army paratrooper, SWAT team leader, detective, and has numerous ties to various law enforcement and government agencies.
Beautiful.
But he resigned from Chandler, Arizona police in August of 2016 before an internal affairs investigation could be conducted due to his substandard performance and sloppy reports, according to East Valley Tribune. These details make me question his extensive military
I'm
credentials.
sure.
As we all know, people like that who inflate their service or even completely fabricate it. Because it's
Stolen valor.
possible. What?
Stolen valor.
Stolen valor. L. Ron Hubbard. I find it questionable that someone so decorated and with such an amazing military career would be essentially fired for repeatedly delivering a lackluster performance on the job, coming to the point where he actually was caught falling asleep in his patrol car while he was supposed to be keeping watch for a raid that was being conducted.
He got bored, Ashley.
Oh my God.
Don't get mad at him for getting boardies.
As you mentioned a moment ago, we listened to him on that podcast the other day, and he was honestly absolutely insufferable.
Oh, I couldn't.
The way he went on about himself.
I'm very important, please.
I'm so important. He then, he could not stop talking about all his credentials. He was giving himself a blowjob, and then he was like, I've gone through some really hard stuff, and I'm so strong because I've come out of it. Everybody should listen to me. Yeah, I know.
I've seen some shit.
You're a bastard. You're a bastard. Then this Jason Mao, after he quit the police department in Chandler, Arizona, because he was preventing himself from being fired, he moved to Phoenix, where he worked in the police department from that point until July 2017, when he went on disability retirement. This is where he met his first wife, Linda Harms, who worked for the Phoenix police until 2015, which was the same year that they were no longer married. When he left the department, he claimed it was because he received a beating so bad that his hamstrings disconnected from his pelvis. And I honestly I'm falling out of my chair and rolling my eyes so hard. So just based off of, somebody, please, if you're a human anatomy expert out there and you're like, this could happen from someone beating him up, tell me. But the only thing I could think is if he was running the hardest he could possibly run or something, and he had some sort of underlying previous condition that made his hamstrings pop off his fucking pelvis. I'm like, bitch, you did not have your hamstrings pop off your pelvis. And they are actually still going to court about this because he's trying to sue them because of this situation.
Oh my gosh.
And they're like, bitch, you didn't do that. And I think there's like some rumors that he was on disability technically for PTSD, and now he's claiming it's this as like an extra little boost or something, because they're saying your PTSD came long before you were ever in our police department. And he's like, no, it came because I got beat up so bad. So anyway, he's a nightmare, and he actually sounds like a nightmare. It's absolutely the worst thing you'll ever hear if you go listen to his podcasts on YouTube. So he left his wife and he remarried in 2016, the next year, to a woman named Nikki Wood. And in an alleged leaked email, it states that Mao is responsible for introducing Lori and Chad, and that he sealed them in some kind of temple ritual, which when they were on the podcast, he was very, if you remember, he is speaking to Lori and he's like, when I met you, I looked into your eyes and I knew that you were also mover like me, or I forget, gatherer. You were a gatherer like me. The way he talks about it, they were fucking from the get-go or something.
Yeah, for sure.
He sounded like he was so in love with her. He was like, you are a special person like me. And we have a connection that was instant, and we have a mission, and we're on our mission, and nothing can take us away from our mission. OMG. So that's frightening. And like I said earlier, I initially thought about this guy that he was just kind of, I connected with some wackadoos, and I didn't mean, I'm not like them, but
he was an oopsie doodle.
But it was a grave oopsie doodle. But it turns out, I think he might have a little more in this. And I think that as the story develops and the case goes on in court, that we may see that he has more of a hand to play in this than he's pretending like he does at this point.
I'm sure.
Like I said, the FBI is investigating him. I felt he was important to mention, even though we really hadn't talked about him yet, because he is mentioned so many times. And he did the podcast with Lori in which she was like, my kids need to suffer in order to be saved. So, so there's some possible theories about what happened here. How are they killing these people? How are all these people dying of heart attacks? And how is it going undetected all this time? There are rumors, these are absolute rumors and theories, conspiracies, whatever, that potassium chloride is able to induce a heart attack. It's a natural forming compound in a human body, so it's not entirely suspicious in an autopsy unless it's done, the autopsy is performed immediately and there are elevated levels of this, which, as we know, in all of these cases, autopsies were never done immediately. Yep. Some cases, like with Joseph, he was cremated, so we'll never be able to know. Right. But maybe there were other clues that they can find in their investigation that can help them kind of figure out if, as we all, I think, already know, that Joseph didn't just die of a heart attack unexpectedly. So? Oh, it just so happens that all these people just die of early onset heart attacks and whatnot. It's just, what a coincidence. Again, everything is such a coincidence here. So another possible theory, and I'm not really sure how possible this is malachite poisoning, because that is something that was mentioned in the not tenets or whatever they were, but we talked about it when we were talking about Ian Pawlowski's manifesto of the church, that where he was describing everything that they believe, that there are malachite healing ceremonies that are supposed to be done by ordained people, special people, but malachite apparently is something that maybe if you put it in water for a while and the water soaked up the malachite, that you could actually cause serious bodily harm and possibly death. But there was a story about a man that was working on it for jewelry and he wasn't wearing a mask and he was getting it in his nostrils without even realizing it, and he became super ill and didn't realize. And so there are ways where maybe you could sneak it into water or something, and someone drinks it, and then oops, you're dying.
Oops, you have a heart attack.
But let's go back to what I'm thinking as far as maybe an explanation, maybe, for where Tylee is, because the last place she was ever seen, as the FBI has stated, was at Yellowstone National Park, where she was never seen again after that. And then her mom's friend showed up the next day to do what? I don't know what. I don't really know. But there's apparently a problem of people falling into the hot springs in Yellowstone that is actually somewhat common, and it's a really awful way to die.
I swear to God, I was just talking about this at work.
Really?
On Friday. Like, why? Not this specifically, just about somebody who jumped at Yellowstone Park to save their dog.
Oh my God. Yes, that's right here.
Shut the fuck up. Oh my God. That is the craziest thing ever. I swear to God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the park's own website states that there are 22 known deaths in those hot springs since the park opened, which obviously has been a while.
Of course.
But that's just the ones we know about. There are stories of people slipping into hot springs and their body dissolving in the acidic water before they could retrieve it. And another story, as you were talking to your coworker about, a man jumped in to rescue his dog and he was pulled out while he was still lucid.
Oh.
He had no idea how badly he'd been injured. After he was pulled out, he was completely blind. And then when someone went to help him take his shoe off, all the skin on his foot went with the shoe. He sustained 3rd-degree burns over his entire body, head included, and he died the next morning in the hospital.
Yeah.
And there was another story that I found online. It was a story about a man that slipped and fell. He was kind of trying to do something. I don't know. He slipped and fell into the pool, one of the pools in the hot springs in 2016. And the recovery efforts had ceased very early on. It was explained that due to the acidity of the water and the thermal feature, as well as the extremely high temperature of the thermal feature, the remains most likely dissolve in a matter of hours, overnight. Yeah. So that is definitely possible that, I mean, I don't want to say that 100% it happened, but it's possible that they went on this hike and Tylee, quote unquote, slipped into one of these hot springs, and it would be I hate to say perfect, but it would be a perfect way to get rid of a body.
Absolutely.
And it just, because it's like, when you have to sit there and think about it, why are they at Yellowstone? Why did they go to Yellowstone? Why was it the last place that she was seen? You know, and also, did Ian Pulaski go the next day because he had heard something had happened to Tylee there, and he wanted to make sure everything was taken care of, like her body wasn't still in one of these pools? Or did he go just to see for himself if it was possibly true? He wasn't going to in a sinister way. I don't really know, but I find it very suspicious. She disappears at Yellowstone, and then the next day, this other guy related to the cult is magically there as well. Who knows what happened? When it comes down to it, who is the mastermind behind all of this? I see the pattern of starting anew with another of God's chosen, being convinced that you have a special calling that you must fulfill to serve God to the fullest degree possible. It's your calling. Then you begin to believe that the old people in your life are demonic, possessed, that you are saving them, doing God's work by killing them so that their true spirit is free from their possessed mortal body. You can use this to injure and or murder anyone and excuse it away with just a shrug. Chad has been writing his end of time books for a long while now, but Lori has been up to some pretty sketchy behavior for a long while as well. So these beliefs, as outlined in the court documents, are incredibly disturbing and straight up batshit crazy. Is there someone else behind all of this? Is Lori really the mastermind, or has she just manipulated the people in her life as long as they've been around, slowly evolving into a more unstable and destructive version of herself, using her religion to now justify all of her actions? She is, after all, a god. And who are we but mere humans who cannot understand her purpose?
I don't.
Right. The story is obviously still evolving, and we will continue to follow Lori's case and her missing children. What is hopefully to come with Chad being charged with murder and whatever else may develop in this story that is quite literally a black hole of absolute insanity. These people have left a trail of death in their wake, and we can only hope that the truth is eventually revealed and that they are brought to justice. And that is where I think we end this episode.
For sure. There's nothing more to say. Like,
yes.
Unfortunately, we're just covering it as it's happening, so we don't have any additional.
And coronavirus has stalled their court hearings a little bit, but you know, when it comes down to it, like I said, religion used as an excuse to justify any horrible behavior that you want to commit. So, yay! I didn't expect to be so just fascinated, but also just like infuriated by this whole thing.
I was completely I did not know that it was going to be this much.
I know.
I was absolutely floored. The more and more I read about it, the more and more I was like, this is nuts.
I mean,
it's crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. And the church of the firstborn and the 144,000. God damn it. Worst name I've ever heard in my life. But anyway, I mean, I really cannot. She's like a pretty lady, you know. But I you know, they show her in court and she's all dolled up and stuff, and I'm just waiting for her to have a little, just, you know, just sit in jail in misery for a little while, because you're just too smug and happy and cheerful walking into court like, hey, everybody, like, where the fuck are your kids, you piece of shit?
Where are they? Where are they?
Oh,
they're not with your parents.
No, they're not with anyone. So yay. And you just have no problem killing everyone in your life, apparently. So that's always a good sign.
Yeah.
A great lady. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Part of me is like, is there some giant Dr. Evil mastermind behind all of this that we just don't see? You know, could it be that who knows? Any of these people could be. I just don't know.
I know.
I don't know if Lori is really capable of being a mastermind. I don't really know.
We'll find out in a few months.
So anyway, I'm excited. I mean, I don't want to say I'm excited. I'm looking forward to really being able to tie this up a little bit better. And
yeah, absolutely.
We will definitely do that. So anyway, thank you for listening. We love you.
Follow us on Instagram. Leave us a 5-star written review. We love
Oh gosh,
you.
don't sound so sound so pissed about it.
I'm not trying to. Just leave us one.
Okay, well, have a great life.
Have a great everything.
Creep it real.